Wolverine, Gem, Sooner, Chinook. Every U.S. state has its own nickname. But which one got its feline-inspired moniker by being better than she looks? Alabama has several nicknames, including the Yellowhammer State and the Heart of Dixie. The term Yellowhammer State comes from the name of a partially yellow woodpecker called a yellowhammer. During the Civil War, some Alabama soldiers wore partially yellow uniforms, so they too became known as Yellowhammers. Soon, all the people from Alabama were called that. Alabama's nickname used to be the Cotton State, but some legislators felt that growing cotton wasn't specific enough to the state of Alabama. Sometime in the mid-1900s, the Alabama Chamber of Commerce promoted a new slogan, Heart of Dixie, to replace it. Alaska is now known as the last frontier because of its natural beauty and swaths of wilderness yet to be properly explored. When the state was first purchased by the United States in 1867, however, Americans called it less flattering monikers, including Seward's Folly, Seward's Icebox, and the Polar Bear Garden. At the time, the then Secretary of State, William Seward, supported American expansion. This was an unpopular move both in Congress and in the press, which used these nicknames in their headlines to mock the purchase. Arizona is often called the Grand Canyon State. As you probably know, the Grand Canyon National Park is located entirely inside the state of Arizona and brings millions of tourists to the region every year. However, for nearly 50 years, Arizona was called the Baby State. This is because, since 1912, it had been the most recent addition to the United States, until Alaska took its place in 1959. It was also sometimes called the Valentine State because it officially became a U.S. state on February 14th. Before the Civil War, Arkansas was widely known as the Bear State because of its large bear population. Another early nickname for Arkansas was the Rackensack State. It was also sometimes called the Toothpick State, a reference to the Arkansas toothpick. This is a term used for the Bowie knife, named after Jim Bowie, who, legend says, used the big knife in a 1927 duel.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
Later nicknames were designed to change the country's view of Arkansas. These included the Wonder State and the Land of Opportunity. In 1995, the official nickname of Arkansas was changed to the Natural State. California is known as the Golden State or El Dorado. Gold was discovered in the Sacramento Valley in 1848, and California was never the same again, as thousands of prospectors swarmed to the state in search of gold. The population boomed as a result, adding some 100,000 non-native people to the territory by the end of 1949, a growth of 100% over a year's time. Colorado is often called the Centennial State. Centennial means the 100th anniversary, and Colorado earned this nickname by becoming a state 100 years after the Declaration of Independence was signed. The Colorado Territory turned out to be rich in gold, and thousands flocked to the territory to try to make their fortunes. Colorado actually had to try to become a state twice because its initial attempt was vetoed by President Andrew Johnson. Only in 1876 was it officially granted statehood. Connecticut was dubbed the Constitution State because some believe that Connecticut had the first constitution ever written. This theory refers to the Fundamental Orders, which was a set of rules for the government and community written in 1638 and 1639. Connecticut is also called the Nutmeg State because, reportedly, there was a time when the people of Connecticut were running a scam selling fake nutmegs carved from wood. However, as the story goes, Connecticut nutmeg sellers were actually selling genuine nutmegs, but their customers in the South believed nutmegs could be cracked like other nuts, rather than grated. When they couldn't get them to open, they decided that they had been scammed by the good people of Connecticut. Delaware's official nickname is the First State because, in 1787, it became the first colony to ratify the United States Constitution, making itself a state in the process. Delaware has also been called the state that started a nation for the same reason. Delaware gained several other nicknames during the Revolutionary War. It's sometimes referred to as the Diamond State because Thomas Jefferson once referred to it as a strategic jewel. It has also been called the Blue Hen State because Revolutionary War soldiers from Delaware are believed to have brought blue hen roosters with them and staged cockfights for entertainment. Florida's official nickname is the Sunshine State because of its warm, mild, and sunny climate. Florida is also sometimes called the Peninsula State or the Gulf State, as it's a coastal state surrounded by water on three sides. It's also known as the Orange State and the Flower State, both of which refer to oranges and their blossoms. Florida has also been nicknamed the Everglades State, a reference to the large marshy wetlands that can be found in Florida, and the Alligator State, for one of the animals that makes its home in those Everglades.
You didn't get to me! Ah! Ah! Rocky! Rocky! No!
Georgia is known as the Peach State. However, in modern times, Georgia is responsible for producing less than 5% of all peaches grown in the United States. Georgia's connection to peaches is intentional, though. The state attempted to change its image after the end of slavery by promoting itself as an exporter of peaches rather than cotton. While peach festivals played into the image of a friendlier, more progressive South, Black Georgians were not often given meaningful roles in these festivals, and Black workers were still the primary laborers harvesting peaches. Hawaii is officially designated the Aloha State. The word aloha is a favorite of tourists and is commonly translated to mean both hello and/or goodbye, as well as welcome and best wishes. Hawaii was officially designated the Aloha State in 1959, the same year it was officially made a U.S. state. Hawaii is also called the youngest state because it's the most recent addition to the United States. Another nickname for Hawaii is the Pineapple State, due to the amount of pineapples the state grows and exports. Originally, it was claimed that the word Idaho was derived from a Native American word meaning gem of the mountain. This led to Idaho's nickname, the Gem State. In reality, though, the moniker was part of Idaho's bid for official statehood, trying to make the territory seem more appealing. Making Idaho a state at all was politically contentious. Republicans opposed the move, as many of the state's potential voters were members of the Church of Latter-day Saints and almost entirely Democrats. When legislation was passed making it illegal for members of the LDS Church to vote on the grounds that they were polygamous, the Gem State was officially admitted to the Union. Illinois has been the Prairie State for more than 175 years, but since 1955, the state's official nickname has been the Land of Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln's early political career was devoted to representing the people of Illinois. In the 1800s, however, Illinois was known as the Sucker State. A few different explanations exist for this name, including the practice of prairie dwellers using long straws to suck water up out of deep watering holes. It may also have begun as a derogatory term for Illinois workers and migrants, comparing them to a species of migrating fish or to the sprouts that grow around tobacco plants. Known as suckers, these sprouts, if not removed, will drain the plant of its resources. For almost 200 years, the state of Indiana has been known as the Hoosier State, and the origin of this nickname is still debated. One possibility is that a successful business person from the state of Indiana, whose last name was Hoosier, hired out laborers referred to as Hoosier's Men, a name that over time may have become associated with all people from Indiana. Some others believe that Indiana accents caused people to mishear the question "who's there?" as Hoosier. Similarly, the term hushing refers to beating someone in a fight, and it's possible that the people of Indiana used to be so successful at fighting that they were once called hushers, which eventually evolved into Hoosiers over time. In the early 1930s, an Iowa judge named David Rohrer and a newspaper editor named James Edwards dubbed Iowa the Hawkeye State, but no one really knows why. Some believe Rohrer and Edwards were fans of James Fenimore Cooper's The Last of the Mohicans, latching on to the name Hawkeye, the novel's protagonist.
Call yourself a patriot and loyal subject to the crown?
Do not call myself subject to much at all.
Others suspect they were inspired by a man named Black Hawk, a leader of the Sauk, Fox, Kickapoo, and Ho-Chunk people in the region now known as southeastern Iowa. Kansas has several nicknames, but the most popular is the Sunflower State. Sunflowers grow wild in Kansas and are the official flower of the state. Kansas is sometimes also known by a stranger nickname, the Jayhawker State. The original meaning of the word Jayhawker is still debated by historians, but it's believed it used to refer to roving troops during the Civil War who raided and looted along the border, targeting both northern and southern states. It's possible that this title may have been applied to Kansas soldiers, and later, all people from Kansas. Kentucky is known as the Bluegrass State, a reference to the state's prairies and the bluegrass plants that fill them. While Kentucky bluegrass is probably the most famous and popular type of bluegrass, there are actually more than 500 species of bluegrass, making it the largest genus in the grass family. Louisiana is called the Pelican State, as the pelican is the state's official bird. Its state seal and flag also feature an enormous white pelican caring for 3 young pelicans in a nest. William C.C. Claiborne once made an eagle the official symbol of the Territory of Orleans, but when the territory became the 18th U.S. state, the Louisiana symbol changed to a pelican. Historians have theorized this has to do with Louisiana's Catholic roots. A pelican is sometimes used as a Christian symbol of self-sacrifice, referring to the belief that, if its young were starving, a pelican would offer up its own flesh to help them survive. Approximately 90% of the state of Maine is made up of forest, which explains its nickname, the Pine Tree State. Thanks to this abundance of pine wood, most of Maine's industry is timber-based. Maine's other popular nickname also refers to a thriving Maine industry, vacation land, a slogan that has been associated with the state since 1936. Every year, millions of tourists visit Maine to participate in winter sports, explore hiking trails, and experience the state's natural beauty.
To Maine.
To Maine. I'll be here the rest of my life.
Oh yeah.
Maryland has 2 popular nicknames, the Old Line State and the Free State. Maryland's regiments in the Continental Army were known as the Maryland Line. It's believed that the title Old Line State was given to Maryland by George Washington himself during the Revolutionary War, after many Maryland soldiers were killed at the Battle of Long Island. Maryland was first referred to as the Free State in 1864, when the state's constitution abolished slavery. The event was celebrated with the firing of guns, ringing of bells, and waving of flags throughout Baltimore. Before Massachusetts was a state, it was a colony established by the Pilgrims. Its official name, the Massachusetts Bay Colony, was given by the Puritans who settled in the area after the Pilgrims. The name Massachusetts refers to the Massachusetts tribe, which translates to a large hill place. The Old Colony State and the Bay State are Massachusetts' most well-known nicknames. For the latter, the moniker was likely inspired by the Massachusetts coastline, which features many embayments. Michigan has been known as the Wolverine State for over 150 years, but until the year 2004, a wolverine had never actually been seen in the state. One theory for the name is that the French settlers who arrived in the 1700s were thought of as having voracious appetites and roundly mocked as wolverines. Another theory dates back to the Toledo War, which was fought between Michigan and Ohio in 1803. Some say the people of Ohio mocked the people of Michigan as greedy wolverines, while others believed that the people of Michigan named themselves wolverines because of their ferocity. Minnesota is known as L'Étoile du Nord, which translates to the Star of the North. This phrase was adopted in 1861, when Minnesota was the state that was furthest north in the Union. The star was a reference to the North Star, which many used to navigate and symbolized the leadership role that Minnesota hoped to take on for the nation. The phrase is officially spoken in French to honor the state's early roots. Many of the first white settlers in Minnesota were French-Canadian.
Sacre bleu!
The state of Mississippi has several nicknames relating to the state's flora and fauna. The most popular of these is the Magnolia State, for the several species of magnolia trees that grow there. The magnolia has become a symbol of the South in general, and Southern cultural experiences and beliefs are sometimes described as being from behind the magnolia curtain. During the Civil War, when Mississippi was a part of the Confederacy, a magnolia flag flew over what was referred to as the Sovereign Republic of Mississippi. Missouri is known as the Show Me State. One explanation for this is that, in 1899, a Missouri representative named Willard Vandiver made a speech in which he declared that the hardworking people from the state of Missouri were not impressed by eloquent language. If you wanted them to believe something, he claimed, you would have to show them. Around the same time, a mining strike took place in Colorado, and scabs from Missouri were brought in to keep the mine running. However, these out-of-state miners didn't have much experience, and the legend states that if someone was from Missouri, others would have to show them how to get the job done. Montana's official nickname is the Treasure State, a reference to the state's many natural resources, particularly minerals. Montana is also referred to as Big Sky Country because the state's sky can appear larger than in more densely populated states with urban cities. Another nickname, Last Best Place, was coined by William Kittredge in a 1988 book about Montana's history. Like Big Sky Country, Last Best Place evokes the benefits of living in a place with lots of unpopulated land. Both of Nebraska's most popular nicknames come from its food industry. It's sometimes referred to as the beef state because of the large amount of cattle farmed in the state. However, Nebraska is best known as the Cornhusker state. Nebraska farmers grow a lot of corn, and have done since long before the invention of modern farming equipment. Nevada is known as the Battle-Born State because it officially became a state during the Civil War. It's also sometimes called the Sagebrush State. Sagebrush is the state flower, found all across the Nevada desert. However, Nevada's official nickname is the Silver State due to its prolific silver mines. During the 19th century gold rush, hopeful prospectors surged into the West looking for gold. But in Nevada, they found silver. So successful was silver mining in Nevada that when it officially became a state during the Civil War, it was a major source of funding support for the Union Army. New Hampshire's most popular nickname is the Granite State, which references New Hampshire's many granite quarries. New Hampshire may be better known by its motto, however, "Live free or die." This phrase is often attributed to a general from the Revolutionary War named John Stark. Originally, the state's motto was supposed to be "strong and steadfast as the granite hills," but the official vote came on the day that the Allies won World War II in Europe, and in a fervor of patriotism, "Live free or die" won out.
God bless America.
New Jersey's nickname, the Garden State, dates back to 1926, possibly even earlier, with some crediting Benjamin Franklin with first identifying the state in a similar way. When the Garden State was due to be added to New Jersey's license plates in 1954, however, there was some pushback. While New Jersey may at one time have been a food source for neighboring states, some in 1954 argued the state had little connection to farming anymore, or gardening of any kind. Despite this opposition, New Jersey was officially labeled the Garden State and remains so today. The state of New Mexico is often called the Land of Enchantment. In 1935, New Mexico's Director of State Tourism, Joseph Bursey, was looking for a new phrase to promote the state. Bursey found inspiration in a 1906 book by Lillian Whiting titled Land of Enchantment. Within a year, the phrase was being used in numerous tourism campaigns to draw people to New Mexico, and by 1999, it had become the state's official nickname. New York is famously called the Empire State. The moniker is not only New York's official nickname and found on all New York license plates, but it also gave the famous Empire State Building its name. It's widely believed that this term originated with a letter from George Washington before he became the nation's first president. In 1784, General Washington wrote to the New York Common Council and referred to the state as the seat of the empire. North Carolina has two popular nicknames, Old North State and the Tar Heel State. The former dates back to when the colony of Carolina was divided in two in 1712 because the northern settlement was older. The origins of the Tar Heel State term are more elusive. One theory is that North Carolina used to make a lot of naval goods, such as tar and pitch. Another popular legend claims the term comes from a jibe from the 1860s about gluing down soldiers' boots to keep them from running away. North Dakota's nickname, the Peace Garden State, refers to the International Peace Garden, located between North Dakota and Manitoba, Canada. The state also has a number of unofficial nicknames, such as the Flickertail State, a reference to a kind of ground squirrel found in North Dakota, and the Rough Rider State, which refers to Teddy Roosevelt's Spanish-American War volunteer army.
Oh, you betcha, yeah.
Yeah.
Ohio's most common nickname is the Buckeye State, and the people of Ohio are often called Buckeyes. The term refers to the seeds of Ohio's state tree. Some believe Buckeye was originally a compliment, claiming it meant that early Ohio settlers were excellent shots. Others, however, believe the term Buckeye was originally an insult for Ohio residents because later settlers of the state believed those who came before them were soft, like the Buckeye seed. Oklahoma is known as the Sooner State, and the people of Oklahoma are called Sooners. In 1889, the U.S. government had pushed the indigenous peoples off of their land in Oklahoma to make room for white settlers. Officially, they were not allowed to start moving in and staking claims on the land until 12 p.m. on April 22, 1889. But some didn't bother to wait for the official start time. These people were referred to as Sooners, a nickname that soon spread to the entire state. By 1907, when Oklahoma became a state rather than a territory, the people of Oklahoma were proudly calling themselves Sooners. Oregon's nickname, the Beaver State, refers to its official state animal. The state has a complex history with beavers, though. At one time, they lay at the center of Oregon's booming fur industry. Over the course of less than 20 years, Oregon settlers overhunted the beavers. For many years, Oregon's beaver population struggled to recover, but recently the state has managed to reintroduce their state animal to its original territory. Pennsylvania's nickname, the Keystone State, points to the pivotal role it played in the formation of the United States. The Continental Congress met in Philadelphia, which is also where the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were written. Keystone is an architectural term for the stone at the center of an archway. For the people of Pennsylvania, this central stone, which supports all the others in the structure, symbolizes the role Pennsylvania had in the formation of the country. Rhode Island has several different nicknames, but it's officially known as the Ocean State. This is because, despite its famously small size, Rhode Island has 400 miles of shoreline.
Surf's up, Big Kahuna!
The nickname was introduced in the 1970s to attract tourists to the state's beaches. Rhode Island's many harbors on its coastline also earned it the nickname the Southern Gateway of New England. Meanwhile, the state has also been unofficially nicknamed Little Rhodey and the smallest state, because, as you may have guessed, it's the smallest state in the Union. South Carolina is sometimes referred to as the Palmetto State. Palmetto trees are a kind of palm tree which grow in southeastern states. The tree, which is featured on the state seal and the state flag, symbolizes a 1776 victory over the British by Colonel William Moultrie, a beloved Revolutionary War figure from South Carolina. During the battle, Moultrie and his men were able to defend a fort made from the wood of palmetto trees. Some of South Dakota's nicknames, like the Mount Rushmore State, simply refer to things found in the state, but some of them are far stranger. South Dakota has been called the Sunshine State, the Blizzard State, and the Land of Infinite Variety because of the wide range of climates and terrains in the state. Bizarrely, South Dakota has also been nicknamed the Swinged Cat State. This is because, in 1890, the governor described the state as a swinged cat, better than she looks. Try working that one out. Tennessee is known as the Volunteer State. This nickname originated during the War of 1812, when a large number of men from Tennessee volunteered to fight. This phenomenon was repeated some 40 years later in the Mexican-American War, when President Polk requested some 3,000 men join the army and got 30,000 from Tennessee alone. Texas is often known as the Lone Star State. This nickname dates back to 1839, when Texas declared its independence from Mexico and adopted a red, white, and blue flag with a single star on it, the Lone Star. After its war with Mexico, Texas wanted to become a part of the United States, but its pro-slavery stance and the prospect of further conflict with Mexico made it unappealing to the U.S. For almost 10 years, Texas remained an independent republic. Although Texas was eventually admitted to the Union, the Lone Star nickname has endured. Utah is often called the Beehive State, but not because the state has any particular connection to beekeeping.
You like jazz?
Rather, the beehive is a symbol for hard work and community. It also has a deeper religious meaning for members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, because it was utilized by Brigham Young. Utah remains the Beehive State, but in 2022, it gained a new moniker when Governor Spencer Cox officially declared Utah's nickname for one day on April 12th of that year would be the Be Kind State. This act was taken as part of an awareness campaign encouraging compassion and kindness. Vermont's most popular nickname is the Green Mountain State, which is the actual meaning of the state's name, Vermont. Vermont is derived from the French phrase vert for green and mont for mountain. The term Green Mountain is a major part of Vermont history and was popularized during the American Revolution. The Vermont militia, called the Green Mountain Boys, sprung up to defend the property rights of the people of Vermont and became Revolutionary War folk heroes under Ethan Allen and Benedict Arnold. While Virginia has been called the mother of presidents and the mother of states, its most commonly used nickname is probably Old Dominion. This term dates back to before the United States of America existed. Not only was Virginia one of the original 13 colonies, but the Virginia colony was the first and oldest of England's claimed territories in the Americas. Jamestown, settled in 1607, was the first settlement in the Virginia colony. These settlements were sometimes known as overseas dominions of the English monarch, making Virginia the Old Dominion. The Evergreen State is Washington State's most common nickname, although it's not official. It refers to Washington's many forests of trees which do not lose their foliage in winter. Washington's first nickname was the Chinook State, named for the Chinookian peoples that lived in the region before it was declared Washington Territory in 1864. West Virginia's most popular nickname, the Mountain State, refers to the fact that it's the only state that's entirely located in the Appalachian Mountains. The state almost had a different name altogether, however, Kananwa. This referred to a Native American tribe and an enormous river and valley in the state. Ultimately, it was decided that the counties forming a new state didn't want to leave Virginia behind entirely, and the new state was dubbed West Virginia instead. Wisconsin is known as the Badger State. Though the nickname is now beloved by the people of Wisconsin, it was once an insult. In the late 1800s, many people in Wisconsin were miners. It's believed that early settlers were either unable to afford to build homes or didn't have time after arriving before heavy snows began, so they were forced to live, work, and sleep inside the mines. The people of Wisconsin spent so much time underground that others called them badgers. Wyoming's most popular nickname is the Equality State, a name that dates back to 1869, when Wyoming became the very first state to grant women the right to vote. Though there were few women living in the territory at the time, it's believed that those who did live in Wyoming exercised their right as soon as possible, voting in the 1870 election.